says preparing. Okay, Ryan, it's your time.
Good evening and welcome to Michigan Asian Live. Michigan Asian Live is a new show. It's a 30-minute show where we discuss that benefits all the Asian American communities here in Michigan. It relates to politics, to community service, and that's happening in our area. And tonight, we're very fortunate to be joined by our current 43rd District Court Judge, Brian Hartwell. Welcome, Mr. Hartwell.
Thank you, Mr. Rosario. It's nice to see you again. It's been too long since we've spent some time together, but happy 1-year anniversary to you, and let's get going.
That sounds fantastic. Well, first of all, Your Honor, the Asian community knows you pretty well with your support and community advocacy in the state of Michigan, especially in the Madison Heights area, where I had the first chance to meet as the mayor of Madison Heights. So for some of the people that do not know you but have seen you, tell us a little bit about yourself, starting from where you came from and what area you grew up. We'd like to know who Mr. Brian Hartwell is.
Yeah, thanks for that opportunity to talk about my background. I was born and raised in Madison Heights, Michigan, and my grandparents immigrated here from Canada. My grandpa was a French speaker. They chose Madison Heights of all places. My parents were raised here, went to high school here, and my parents kept me here in the public schools. And when I was old enough, I ran for city council and won. That was back in 2007. I served 8 years on the Madison Heights City Council, and then I ran for mayor in 2015, and I served for mayor as 5 years until this summer when a judge in the 43rd District retired, and I was picked to replace him to finish out his term. But now if I want to keep the job full-time, I'll need to earn the respect and the vote of the voters from Madison Heights, Hazel Park, and Ferndale for the full 6-year term as a judge of the 43rd District Court. So this summer, I've been the judge. I stepped down as mayor and I became the judge. I took the oath of office, and I've been handling all the cases of the district court, criminal, civil, traffic. And my wife and I just couldn't be happier. This is a dream job. My wife, Ling Yu, who you know, we're good family friends. We just couldn't be happier. We've had a great time spending a lot of time at home during the pandemic, and our relationship is stronger than ever. And I'm just lucky. I got a lucky break to get a great wife and a great job. Oh, I'm sorry, Ryan, it's muted. I can't hear the question.
Oh, Brian, again, like you stated, you had good breaks, but to me, it looks like it's due to your hard work and your determination to be a leader in communities like the city of Madison Heights, which I first met you. Now, as from what I heard back in May, you were appointed by our governor to take over the resigned position of the past judge of the 43rd District Court, which was Charles Geddard, right? Charles Geddard had some health issues, so he had to step down, and he was up for re-election again in November, but he decided to resign, and that opened an opportunity for you for this position. Now, to be picked by our governor to be in this position, tell me why she would do such a thing, pick you out of all the different candidates. There's got to be a reason. Please, your thoughts on that.
You're giving me too much credit. Everything I've accomplished in my life is because other people got me there. My family encouraged me through college and law school, and then winning city council races and mayor races, and now getting appointed as judge has always been other people doing that. Voters elected me, the governor appointed me. So I really owe my success to other people putting me in those positions. Now, for the position of judge, that was a highly selective process. Our governor is an attorney, and she told me it's one of the most solemn, nonpartisan things that she does as a governor is her evaluation to appoint judges. And that comes from her respect of the judiciary and also her background as a licensed attorney and former prosecutor. And so the candidates who are running for the election, they applied, and the governor evaluated all of our applications, and she selected me for several reasons. And when she called me, she gave me a personal call. Talk about exciting, talk about nerve-wracking. When I got the message that she was going to call me, I didn't know if she was going to say sorry or you got the job. But Governor Whitmer told me that she picked me because of my leadership style as mayor, and that I was the only proven attorney who's actually faced the scrutiny of public office, especially nonpartisan office at the local level. And she noticed that my leadership style was, as she put it, a servant leader, which meant that my time in office was to serve others and to promote others' ideas. And that's really what I do. Actually, the greatest part of being an elected official is campaigning, because I get to go to hundreds, actually thousands of houses, and every family gives me a little bit of advice. Hey, Judge, can you do this? Or, when it was mayor, hey, can you fix this road or think about this policy? And so even during a pandemic, I've been going door to door. I wear a mask and gloves, of course. And I actually pass out masks when I go door to door so people feel comfortable talking to me. And I just ask, how can I help you? How can your experience in this community be improved by my time in office? And that's, the governor noticed that. Of course, I'm qualified as a lawyer, thousands of cases and every type of discipline of the court. And so she picked me because I have the experience as a lawyer, but the experience of working with the public. And really, I mean, you can want to be a judge, you can want to be an elected official, but until you've actually done it and served in government in a leadership position where you're balancing budgets and managing public employees and handling live disputes on the record, you really just you can't trust someone and their temperament until they've done it. So my experience as mayor, handling all those meetings, protests and tough debates, and always treating people with respect is what got the governor's attention, because she doesn't want to appoint judges who will embarrass her or bring dishonor to the judiciary. And I hope I'm fulfilling her potential or her ideas about me.
Well, thank you, Brian, Your Honor. The other question I have is being selected, like you said, and you stated some of the important facts. As you are well aware of a little bit of the history of the former judge, Jared Geddard, his style is, from his reputation, he was a very strict judge, no nonsense, by the book when there's cases are involved. And that's a very important quality as a judge. You have to be fair and a stern judge. Tell me a little bit about your style that you bring to the court that's maybe similar or maybe just a little bit different in his judge as a judge beforehand, and like your style, what it would be like.
Yes, the most important thing is a judge must follow the law. And so my job is to follow the law. And there's a great analogy of what my job is. And it's just like a sports official or a baseball umpire. I'm not there to play the game. I'm just there to call balls and strikes. And my decisions should not impact, my personal beliefs should not impact the outcome of the game or the outcome of a case. And so I truly uphold my oath as a judge very closely to follow the law. Now, occasionally that means you have to be strict, but a lot of the times the law gives a judge discretion on how to act or how to handle a case. And so the pandemic has actually forced all judges to slow down how they handle criminal cases, for example. We can't just send everyone to jail during a pandemic. So judges have had to reevaluate how they use criminal sentencing procedures. And so how I've approached it is I really dig in as deep as I can on the unique needs of every individual that comes before me. So take, for example, a drunk driver. Some judges in the district, or some judges in the state of Michigan, if you have a drunk driving case, you're going to jail no matter what, no questions asked. But most other judges, they have a more nuanced approach. And that's where I fit in, the more nuanced approach. And so I send offenders through my probation department to have a very in-depth needs assessment. We review if there's any mental health or emotional health needs. There could be depression or anxiety. There could be substance abuse. And we ask every person that comes before my court, how can we help you overcome whatever led you to that situation? Maybe it is some time in jail. Some people have bad addictions to heroin and they just need to be removed from that position. And so 30 days in jail may be the best way for them to repair their lives. But other times, especially it's addiction, they probably just need therapy. They need counseling. Maybe they need some sort of outpatient treatment, maybe some intensive inpatient treatment. But that's where I feel I need to use my discretion, is to ask, to not have one sentence for everyone, but to have a unique sentence for each individual. And that takes some work. It takes some work from me, my staff, probation officers, and it takes a lot of work from the people that come before me, because they have to be honest about themselves. They can't just come to court with their head down, just assuming they're going to get a jail sentence. I demand that they're open and honest with themselves and with the court. And so some people think that's like a nice, I'm a nice judge, but no, I think it's just being a fair judge in the sense that I'm listening to everyone. And the fact that we have Zoom hearings, we still can't have in-person court. So the Zoom hearings, they slow it down. So I can just have intimate moments with these people and their attorneys and the prosecutor, and we can really explore what this person needs. And of course, if it's a violent offender, you could be looking at some jail time. But if it's a minor offense, like you stole a loaf of bread at the grocery store because your children are hungry, maybe in a different time, in a different court, you could go to jail. But with me, I'm digging deeper. What was the cause of you stealing? Was it anxiety because of the pandemic and you lost your job? Is it the stress that you're a single parent and your kids are crying? Or was it you're just breaking into the Radio Shack at 2 a.m. to steal a TV? My job as judge is to really understand the case before me. And that's what I think fairness is. Fairness is not the same sentence for every person, 30 days in jail or 12 months of probation for everyone. Fairness is, I'm going to treat you by applying equal rights to you. You're going to get the full system of all the possible offers and deals and options on the table. And if you're willing to play the game, I'm going to keep trying for you. Of course, there's some people who just are scofflaws and they don't want the help, or they're just not mature enough to handle the help. I'll be patient with them, but if they're regularly violating court orders and breaking promises, there will be consequences. But I'm not going to treat them disrespectfully, because they're still humans, they're still individuals. They could be my neighbors, right? So I'm not going to lecture someone and browbeat them and be disrespectful. I'm just going to look at them as a friend and a neighbor, and I'll find a way to help them. And that's how I've been the judge for the last couple months. And I promise that's how I'll be the judge when I'm elected.
And one tough question I have for you, what may be an advice to the community or citizens in Michigan, and it affects also some of the Asian Americans that are living there, is domestic violence that occurs that we keep quiet all the time. It seems like we don't report as much, because it is a secret thing that we have in our community, the Asian Americans, with domestic violence. As a judge, if they're listening tonight, right, and this individual is having issues with a spouse or a boyfriend, as a judge, what can you tell that individual so they can come out and seek help from the police, seek help from the justice system, and knowing that this system can help you, because they're scared?
That's a really hard question. And I've learned about a little bit about Asian culture through my wife, and she was born in Taipei. And I understand what you're saying. And as a judge, every day I see domestic violence cases. And one of them that just broke my heart was a young couple who had police involvement 30 times just this year. And so clearly some part of the system was not helping that couple. And, you know, it may not always be a law enforcement as the first step. And so there are charities that if people are more comfortable not going to the police and the judge, they can reach out to spousal abuse networks. There's a group called Haven in Oakland County, and those reports are held confidentially, like a doctor-patient confidentiality report. And so people can contact Haven and get immediate counseling and help. And so what I'm doing as judge is I'm being honest. I'm saying domestic violence is a problem in all communities. It's not unique to the Asian American community, the African American community, all communities, rich or poor. It doesn't matter if it's Hazel Park, Madison Heights, or Novi. It happens in every neighborhood. Every family could be impacted by it. And so as a judge, this is what I'm doing. I'm being honest that it exists, but I'm also going to form what's called a high-risk response team. And that's going to be a quasi-judicial group of myself, a police detective, a court administrator, a probation officer, an abuse counselor, and a private charity group, and people who are culturally sensitive if there are cultural barriers and differences. And this is a group that will evaluate existing and known instances of domestic violence in our community. And we're going to evaluate those cases off the record to see if there's additional intervention that is needed. Because like you said, Ryan, a lot of people are modest in exposing their family problems. And a lot of that has to do with power imbalances. The survivor of violence could be intimidated by the aggressor. The survivor could be afraid to lose face or lose her home or her financial stability, or worse, could be killed if she says something. So even those people who are afraid, it'll be my job and this team's job to look out for you. So if there's any evidence in the community of abuse, we're going to be studying it, and we're going to leap to your aid if necessary. And it doesn't have to be a criminal case. We're going to use as many different avenues, as many different levers as getting to you to save you, number one, so that violence is not escalated where it results in a homicide. And we'll try to stop anything short of that too. It's what keeps me up at night. It was the most terrifying part about my job as mayor, is the reports I would get from the police department that the hotels in Madison Heights would have victims of human trafficking who may have came from Thailand or even Miami, Florida. And they would stay, these victims, these sex slaves would stay in Madison Heights hotels and be abused and threatened with violence. It's terrifying stuff, but it happens in our community, and I'm not afraid to address it. And I think my experience as a lawyer and as a mayor has brought me to this moment where I have the knowledge, I have the connections, and I have the guts to try to do something more than just coming to work 8 to 5 as a judge. I'm going to try to be creative and do whatever I can. But that's a really tough question, Ryan, and it's as serious as it gets.
It is definitely serious, and I appreciate you addressing it. And little did we know in our community that Madison Heights has some issues too, like every other city. So it's in your own backyard, and it's up to us, like if also as citizens, if we can see those cases where there's a domestic abuse, maybe we can extend a helping hand before it gets worse. And then you being a judge stating that what you can do on your end is really beneficial and helpful and hopeful for some of these battered women that are encountering today, especially you have a language issue, and that's the biggest concern that we face in a lot of cases. Now, my question to you, my other question to you, it's a tough one, another tough one because it's important. As you know, all across country, there's a lot of issues that are going on, and there's a big debate of defunding police departments? I know you're a city of Madison Heights. I'm just kind of curious, being you saying as a judge now, even a past mayor, how do you feel, where do you stand on some of these different counties, cities, or different states that are thinking of defunding the police department? What's your opinion on that?
I very clearly and proudly state that Black Lives Matter. And that is not said to exclude anyone. That is said to recognize that a certain group of people have felt historic and they've endured systemic racism to hold back an entire race of people in our country. And some of the most obvious examples of how that systemic racism has played out is police abuse. And so, of course, we can't disband entire police departments, but when I was the mayor, I worked openly with our police chief and city council and our police officers, the good police officers, to fix that system. So what happens is the city, who employs the police officers, needs to have an honest conversation with the bargaining unit, the unions who represent the police officers, to not protect the bad ones. So that's the first step that we did when I was mayor and on city council, is you go directly to the good cops, the ones who organize them, and say, you may not protect the bad ones any longer. The second part is you can change the model of police work. Instead of, no longer can police work be an us versus them. And so what you saw in Madison Heights, and especially like cities like Ferndale, that's been a leader in America, is you go to a community policing form of police work. It's, in a very simple term, it means that you have police officers embedded and directly responsible for smaller communities, for smaller neighborhoods. It almost goes back to a different era of police work, where it was less militarized, and it was just, you know, the police chief and the police officer was your neighbor, right? They were just looking after your neighborhood, your children. That's what you have to go to. And so in Madison Heights, for example, we increased opportunities for our police officers to engage with the public, not in a militarized fashion or, an intense interrogation fashion, but just human beings interacting and respecting each other. And that meant to have police officers go to school events. It meant police officers going to, for example, the Vietnamese American Association of Michigan summer picnic. And if you constantly teach the officers to break down that wall of us versus them, you start to strike up conversations both ways. And that's the only way to build respect. It's the same thing. It's usually the antidote to a lot of just common racism in the neighborhoods. Is it starts from a lack of communication and ignorance. And so my job as mayor was to always create conversations. And so, what I noticed in Madison Heights, 20% of our businesses are owned by Asian Americans. Madison Heights is one of the most diverse communities in Michigan. But honestly, you look at our region and it just feels really segregated. Where you think of these communities that were so diverse, but there's no integration. So my job as a leader has been to encourage integration and people to talk to each other and learn about their different cultures and be accepting of other cultures, but you have to learn about it. And so especially when it comes to police work, you have to be very careful, because the oath we take as an elected official is to protect the health, safety, and well-being of our residents. And the one way to do that is to have good police officers who are also upholding their oath to protect, serve the well-being of our residents. It's a really sensitive subject. But again, it has to come from a place that there have been egregious, offensive, disgusting racism and mistakes that were made in the past and right now in the current times. And you just can't be afraid as a leader to say where those problems are and support the groups that are downtrodden and disrespected.
Thank you. Thank you for answering that tough question, Your Honor. And I really appreciate. I just want to let everybody know that our show is a bipartisan. Well, we don't endorse any candidate for any position. our forum is just basically asking you questions and get to know who you are. But I do know that August 4th is next week. And Judge Hartwell, before I let you go, I'd like you to speak to our group and say, why should we pick you as the next 43rd District Court Judge this year?
Thanks, Ryan. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you tonight and your viewers at home or at work. I am beyond humbled to hold public office. I've held public office for 13 years, 8 years as councilman, 5 years as mayor, and now a couple months as the judge. And there's no better place for me personally or professionally. I'm humble, I'm respectful, I'm kind, I'm patient, I'm a good listener. And I demonstrated that year after year on my city council, and the voters elected me 5 times, twice as council, 3 times as mayor. And there's no question about my personality, my humility, and my ability to handle cases and to treat people with respect. I was born and raised in this community. I formed my law office in this community. I've never left. This is my hometown. It's a place I love so much. And I promise that I will continue to be the same person, humble, respectful, patient, understanding of everyone's unique needs and unique backgrounds. And it'll never be about me. I had a law professor, my trial practice professor, he said, never let a judge tell you it's his or her courtroom, it's the people's courtroom. And that lesson I'm reminded of every day in court. It's never about Judge Hartwell, it's never about me. It's about the families that come before me. And you think about district court, these are just the normal disputes in our lives. It could be a landlord fighting the tenant. It could be someone who hasn't paid their phone bill. It could be a speeding ticket. Today, someone said that they were speeding because they thought that the hospital called them for a liver transplant finally. I mean, these are the basic issues of our lives. And as the judge, I'm going to do all I can to empower the people who come before me, to trust that the system is working for them. And I'm not here to tip the scale. I'm here just to call balls and strikes, to be a good person. And even if I have to rule against you, I want the person to say, well, you know what? The judge was fair. He listened to me, and that local government's all right. And I've been doing it for 13 years, and you see what you get what you see. And if you're a voter in Madison Heights, Hazel Park, or Ferndale, and I invite you to reach out to me anytime. Thanks, Brian.
Oh, thank you, Judge Brian Hartwell. Appreciate you spending the time with us. And I'll end it like, you must have been a great umpire back in the day, because you call it the way it is, the right way, the fair way. And thank you for sharing this with your evening with us tonight. Have a good night.
You're the best, Ryan. You do so much for the community. I appreciate you so much. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Have a good night. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Good night.